and of course very important for us to have is the perspective from the European Commission, DG CNECT Connect. Rolf Freeman-Snyder is joining us today, so very warm welcome. Then we have two representatives from our working groups, Working Group 2 with Enrique Morgades-Prat from CERTE and Antonio Ilicheto from ENSUI, who is Working Group 1 co-chair. We have 4 projects, which is INSEAD EV with Dominique Bertin from Enedis. We have the Smart Otaniemi project with Sanna Erni and Marco Parkinen from VTT. We have the CLUE project with Thomas Seinzinger, and he is from Lab 10 Collective EG, and the EVA project with Albedo Bettini from the University of Applied Sciences and Arts of Southern Switzerland. Yes, I have introduced my colleague, Aris Dimeas. I have the pleasure today to moderate together with you through this session. Aris is from the Institute of Communication and Computer Science Systems, ICCS, and my name, Genia Rutenberg from Clarence. Right, let's go. Also here in this parallel session, we would like to do Slido. So please, either you scan with your telephone the code, or you can also, my colleague from the technical team will also paste the Slido link in the chat, and then you enter the code to join the parallel session 1. And our first question would be to get to know you, since we have now we know now our panelists. We would like to get to know you. And please let us know which country is your company from. So please, if you could, join the chat and the Slido and give us like a small detail, a small clue about this. And then one small remark to our audience. Yes, please keep your microphone muted, your camera off. I would now like to invite our panelists to turn on their microphone and their camera so we can see you. And please also to all participants be aware that you can paste or write your questions in the chat. There will be a slot at the end of our parallel session where we will be answering your questions, maybe not all of them, unfortunately, but we want to select 2 or 3. And yes, and please follow the Slido questions. So the first question has been posted, and I will now give the word to my co-moderator, Aris Dimeas, which will lead you through the next minutes.
Okay, thank you, Xenia. Now we will proceed with 4 small presentation pitches for each one of the project. So we can start with INSEAD EV, which in this project partners from 8 countries are involved: Estonia, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Slovenia, Spain, and Turkey. So Dominique, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. As you can hear, there are actually currently some work at the building around me, so I think that would be maybe wise to switch to someone else just to give me some time to make it stop, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we will just jump the slides and then get back to...
So we can go to Smart Otaniemi, a project from Finland. Sanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Dear audience, my name is Sanna Örni. I am a co-creation manager at VTT Technical Research Center of Finland. Let me share you a short story about Smart Autonomy project that led us to build a springboard for smart urban solutions. It all started with the need of globally connected innovation ecosystem for smart energy in Finland. VTT, Aalto University, and City of Espoo, together with the companies, initiated Smart Autonomy piloting project. The project was focused to co-innovate new solutions for flexible energy systems and digitalization of energy. Smart EV charging has been one of the core use cases. Experimentation, lessons learned, and competence gained has brought us now to the next level. And can I have the next slide, please? May I introduce our key output of Smart Autonomy Smart EV Charging project, the concept of Zero Emission Testbed, ZEMHub. It is aimed to be a truly multi-actor, multi-purpose, and multi-operator testbed for novel sector-integrated urban mobility use cases, helping to shorten time to solution for customer-friendly charging services. My colleague, research team leader, and one of Finnish EV charging experts, Mr. Marko Paakkinen, will open this concept and our key learnings more. Thanks for your attention, and I wish you a delightful workshop.
So we continue with the CLUB project. This project, partners from 4 countries are collaborating: Austria, Germany, Sweden, and United Kingdom. So Thomas, please give us your overview.
Thank you very much. So thank you for having me, and thank you for letting present one of the use cases from the CLUB project, which is EV charging with regional energy token. Within the CLUB project, we're working on various kind of applications and use cases on different locations. And here is one where we are giving households the opportunity to have an energy account, which you see in the middle on the slide. You have a balancing kind of activity where you say, well, depending on your consumption of energy, depending on your production of energy, you're having EKVH, we call them, on your account, and that account basically balance can be moved to a blockchain system. So when you are moving that to the blockchain system, it becomes easy transferable. So you're having a token which works as a regional energy currency, you could say so. So we're using the Artis blockchain for this one, where we are allowing people to have that energy token on their wallet and use that energy token for various kinds of purposes. And the use case we're working here on is on the next slide. So the user or the household has a digital wallet, in our case the Minerva wallet, that is paired to a car, and the car is approaching a charging pad, and we demonstrated that back in 2019 already. So this is a kind of was already demonstrated as well, but now we're extending it with the energy account. So the car approaches the charging pad, and it is sensed basically, and you're getting a push notification on your mobile phone if you want to charge. And the service provider who provides the service for charging is monitoring an account on the blockchain system. So as soon as the user is actually paying for the charging, the service provider will see that payment is coming in and can actually enable the charging of the car. and when either the charging is finished or the user stops the payment, the charging itself can be stopped. So in this way, it becomes very simple and easy for somebody to pay with an energy token as a regional currency.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, before moving to Eva, just to mention that on Slido we will have a new question now. Feel free to answer. And so Alberto from Eva project will present shortly the activities. And just to mention that in Eva, 3 countries are involved: Switzerland, Italy, and Austria.
Exactly. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank ETIP SNET for the invitation of this interesting workshop. So I'm Alberto Bettini, researcher at the Institute of Applied Sustainability to the Built Environment at SUPSI. And I'm the project manager of the EVA project. This project, which explores the optimization of regional infrastructure in the transition to electrics and connected autonomous vehicles. So to do this, we are working on 2 pilot sites, one in Ticino in Switzerland and one in Bolzano in Italy. As you can see, we have also France and Austria as partners. The steps are the follows. So we are starting contextualizing the future mobility scenarios, the possible future mobility scenario, which is ending this month, this work. And then with a modeling effort, we analyze the impact of this future mobility on the grid, and then analyzing also the optimization of the charging infrastructure. And we want to build and provide some tools to support the regional transition as guidelines in the summer the next year. So if you are interested, we can see the EVA project EU website and follow us maybe on the LinkedIn group also. And this is the founding program. It's a Smart Energy System AirNet, and yeah, that's more or less all. I have some other slides, but I don't know if we need to use it for this 99 pitch, so we can move over.
Okay, so
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, and we still miss the in-seat EV. So are we ready to go on?
Yes, absolutely. I'm back. Sorry for
No problem.
slight inconvenience. And thank
better,
you very much.
I see you have better background now.
Yes, it's much better. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving the opportunity to talk about Insight EV. So the project is really about kind of considering a very different approach to how you would provide charging opportunities to customers, but by really starting with customers' needs. What are the unspoken customers' needs in terms of charging infrastructure? Because the problem has been considered so far really from a technical point of view, and we've never really asked the customer what they were really expecting and need. So moving for the next to the next slide, if you don't mind. Brilliant. So the project is really about to test in 5 different environments what are the customers' needs and how the technology could answer to that. So obviously you will see some of the traditional features like fast charging, because you understand that in some use cases something you might be interested to address. Also how local charging, very close to what the customers do in their hometown, their local area, how these charging opportunities and need are addressed, and also some very interesting disruptive technology, for instance, like inductive charging while driving on the road, by completely alleviating any customer intervention that definitely might help to increase customer engagement. So we are going to test all these opportunities and innovations among a number of countries, 8 countries for different use cases that will be tested across Europe. If we move to the next slide, please. brilliant. You will see that there are quite a large area of partners who are involved, from obviously vehicle manufacturers, as they are very key to the success of the demonstration, as they are the providing the first object which the customer will engage with. Basically, customers are not buying energy systems or smart kind of infrastructure. They are definitely buying cars to address the needs. So car manufacturers is very key to the success of the project. We have obviously DSO and TSO. So I am a representative of a French DSO Enedis, obviously very key to the project as well. A number of technology developments and many municipalities, as the project aimed also to develop tools that would help local authorities to deploy electric charging solutions for customers. And if we move to the next slide, we'll have a broad overview of where we are. So the project has started in early 2020. What you have to keep in mind is that we'll be able to share the first insight in terms of demonstration sites by mid-2022, and the project should end by the end of 2023. So very fast-paced project, considering a number of very heavy technologies that involve not only mentioning the inductive charging that will require a lot of work in the European roads. But very exciting project here.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
So thank you very much for the pitches. We will now go to, I'm sorry, I'm rushing here through the final pitch slides to our panel discussion. Now we've got it. And we invite all panelists to join. We have prepared some questions for you, but also for our participants, for all the participants. So again, we would like to ask you a Slido questions, and for your information, we will show them after the panel discussion, the results. So please, to all participants, you could already answer the first Slido question, which our technical support would put in the chat. What are the main barriers in the deployment of charging stations in your country or city? And then you could have multiple choices. But now going to the InSeat EV project and the panel questions, we would of course be interested. What are the lessons learned from your project related to the driver's behavior in particular, and the acceptance of incentives? So which other incentives you also think could be interesting?
That's a very good question, because we have considered the capability or the interest of customers towards electric mobility, really from how we'll be able to help them to move toward this new approach. But what we see, the first outcome of the project is that some of the fears that we thought were at the core of the kind of customers' hesitation are no longer there. For instance, typically the range anxiety, which is something we thought that was very key to bridging the gap towards massive rollout of electromobility, is not really there anymore. I think there is now a level of maturity of customers who understand that they might have in the future different cars or different way to be mobile in the city, in the surrounding, that would require different objects, and that not anymore one object, the petrol car historically, will cover everything, but they will have to adjust. And in order to adjust, need to be agile, which means that, interestingly, one of the first outcomes is that really customers want to have very agile solutions, solutions that are very close to the place they live, that would allow them to access different mobility solutions. But there is definitely not a kind of a one-size-fits-all approach that used to prevail in the previous years, but something that is more agile, where customers are really ready to switch to the mobility solution that will really address their needs at the moment they need it. So quite interesting insight already.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dominique and Aris. I give you the floor.
Okay, next question is for Clue. So you're using digital currency and blockchain technology to manage the charging stations. Can you list the benefits of this technology and the advances in the charging management?
Okay, well, thank you. Also, thank you for the question, because there is a often cited misconception about blockchain technologies. Most people know Bitcoin. They know that it consumes a lot of energy and basically is kind of a problem when you look at kind of efficient solution. So what we actually did is having a very efficient system in the background, which is far more efficient than traditional payment providers. And what we also see is that if you have charging station where you actually integrate a payment solution, then it is very often not viable. So basically, it is too expensive for being feasible on those charging stations. So the benefit for including blockchain technology and a digital currency is to make it economical to charge to pay something for it. And the other one is to make it as simple and easy to integrate as possible, so to reduce cost on the whole chain and make it actually a much more regional payment method for the charging system and charging station with that digital currency.
Okay, thank you.
Then I would thank you so much for this reply. Really interesting. We were also observing that this aspect from another angle. Let's put it this way: we saw the Smart Otaniemi project presenting in their slides the Smart Hub that they have developed.
Sorry,
could you? Yes.
Maybe we can add Marco as presenter. Marco Pakinen.
Yes, hello. I am actually a presenter now. Thank you.
Okay.
Somebody did that.
Oh, okay. Yes. So, Marco, very welcome. You are now presenting, or as a panelist here today for the Smart Otaniemi project from Finland. So, very warm welcome to you as well. We have seen in your pitch the Smart Hub concept, and could you please explain it a bit more in detail?
Yes, and thank you for inviting me to this panel. Very interesting other projects also in this one. But about our zero emission mobility hub that Sanna just presented, that basis is from our ongoing project so far and our first pilot in the Smart Otaniemi ecosystem, which is actually an ecosystem rather than a project. And in that first phase, we identified a need to have a charging testbed for speeding up the EV adoption, where we can solve the chicken neck problems, for example, for new vehicle classes or use cases, test new technologies, business models and services, and solve some of the existing problems like payment systems, roaming, poor user experience. And then hopefully we could also accumulate the knowledge on best user experiences, best practices and regulatory barriers, etc. So we have a pretty high aim in having a national level testbed in Finland for EV charging. And the aim is to build this testbed from a network of living labs and individual testbeds that are targeted for different vehicle classes and different use cases. And at the moment, there is definitely a need for charging infrastructure for commercial vehicles, for example, taxis and logistics that are starting to electrify as the next segments, as we have seen the passenger vehicles and electric buses take off. at the, let's say, very high pace. And this ZEM hub is a local pilot in Otaniemi, Espoo, and this is linking to this network of test beds. And we did a study in the first phase about the mobility needs in this area, and we identified basically two needs there. One is to have a shared passenger vehicle fleet which would have shared use between different user groups, so that there would be these three organizations initially, VTT as the Technology Research Center, then the Aalto University and the city of Espoo during the office hours, and in the outside office hours, the local residents could use the same shared vehicle fleet. And by combining these large fleet, these different users, we can generate large enough fleet so that it will have significance, because we aim to have a V2G chargers for this fleet, and therefore have enough capacity to make a difference there. And then we have linking projects then to continue how to create flexibility out of that and predict the flexibility potential with AI, etc. The second use case we identified was high power battery backed up charging for commercial vehicles like taxis, logistics, and local street maintenance, like snow plowing and street sweeping. And this is something that we have already covered in the area, like the local real estate owners are willing to put the requirements in their maintenance contracts about requiring electric equipment if we bring the charging infrastructure there. So this is again solving the chicken egg problem. And in the future, like Sanna was showing, the future will be quite diverse. So we plan to extend this scope towards also light EVs and fuel cell vehicles sometime in the future.
Yes.
But the whole plan is to create this kind of open test platform to enable fast experiments, enable working with startups, have a regulatory sandbox, enable scaling and replication on this platform, and connect this with other pilots there. Like we have 5G test network, we have a plan to create a data marketplace and utilize like drones in logistics, etc. So this will be a large network.
Yes. Thank you for sharing this smart hub concept. I think it's really something a good basis, and something that can expand even further. It's clear that there's still a lot of potential. Thank you very much, Marco.
Okay, now we are moving to a concept that will attract many researchers, is autonomous driving. However, since we are in, let's say, the concept of ETIP SNET, which focuses on grids, the question to EVA project is how will autonomous driving affect the charging policies, and as a consequence, what kind of impact will have to distribution grids?
Yeah, thank you
Alberto?
for the question. Yeah, thank you, Aris, for the question. Yeah, the idea in general is the many future scenario currently hypothesized that the diffusion of cars will mostly take place in terms of electric and shared as mobility as a service framework. So there are these two disruptive technologies coming, but in two different time periods. So the idea is that in the not too distant future, there may be these fleets of battery that move around in an autonomous way. So this may allow them to support the grid in an increasing framework of decentralized renewable generation context. To do this, we are working now in this project. Is necessary to work on some aspects, such the interoperability, of course, of charging infrastructure that is needed, but also the discussion that Marco said, the idea of a cloud is really interesting, and I think is the right way to the right path, but also the optimization of the algorithm, the algorithm optimizations to manage all these batteries that are moving, and also the public policy approach in general. So I think these are this is what we are analyzing now. So as I said, you can find all the deliverable on the publication that we have on the website, and at the end of next summer we will publish guidelines on this sense. So this is what we are doing.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so we will have now a second slide of questions for our panelists, and we have also a second question for all our participants. We would be interested, what is the role of the DSO in the deployment of charging stations in your country or city? So is it active involvement, support third parties to deploy their network of charging stations, or is there no involvement? You can choose. And we would give then the first question to the INSIT EV project representative. Please give us an overview of advanced charging technologies that you have used or planning to use in your demo site. You have mentioned it before you have started, but maybe there is already something going on. And what would be then the benefits of these technologies?
Yes, thank you. Actually, we realized that while questioning customers regarding the hurdles that they were facing in kind of managing their electric vehicles, that the very fact to charge, to pull out the cord and to plug into the socket, to find the right power level, to be identified by the systems while you are charging on public places, were significant hurdles that could certainly not discourage the most tech savvy of our future EV adopters, but maybe certainly discouraging some of the mainstream population that would be keen to engage with EVs. So we consider that maybe by taking out all the interactions regarding the very act of charging could be a way to simplify this and to make charging EVs something that is completely invisible. So basically, the way to do that is to get rid of the cord, get rid of the plug, get rid of the sockets, and try to charge the car while it's parking, which is traditionally known as inductive charging, which is quite convenient for public parking places or car sharing programs, for instance. But we wanted to push this idea a bit further and allow the charge to happen while the car is driving. So basically what we are looking for as a performance, as an end goal, is to have a car driving approximately 1 minute on an electrified road to be able to drive 5 minutes on a non-electrical road. So in order to make that happen, we are going to test this technology in 2 different use cases. The first one will be in dense urban area, where we know that the car usually drives relatively slowly, which is kind of best case scenario, as you may be able to charge the car at the higher rate, with some obvious use cases like a taxi lane while taxis are waiting for customers. Obviously, they could be charged. But we are also considering the worst case scenario, the most challenging one, which is for peri-urban areas, where we will try to see if this technology could apply for long distance. The purpose here is to provide a solution to EVs to cover long distance without the hurdle of charging. And in terms of benefits, obviously for the customers to simplify the charging, but also in terms of occupation of the space. You won't have to implement a number of charging points in the streets or in stations dedicated to that. Basically, it will be a seamless customer experience in terms of charging their EVs.
Okay. Yeah, good. That's very very insightful. Then thanks for your reply. I will give the floor to my colleague Aris.
Okay, next question to Clue. Again, to the concept of blockchain and digital currency. In one of the discussions we had, you mentioned you can easily create rewards for the drivers. Can you explain shortly how it works and how this functionality can be used, for example, to manage congestion problems in the distribution network?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, well, within our use case, we think that rewarding a behavior of drivers is actually one of the key elements, and because we use digital currencies and we can kind of invent them however we need them, and we can structure them as kind of a programmable money kind of thing. We have all the options what we have on blockchain systems. So we have basically two approaches where we can reward the behavior we wanna see, be it congestions or be it charging at a time where it's where we have energy at the surplus. So one thing is that we can adjust the market prices. So because we are using the energy token, the energy currency, we can basically flexibly kind of adjust the price. When we have a surplus, it's cheaper. When we have kind of a shortage in energy or a high demand on energy, it's more expensive. So everybody can decide if it's too expensive or nicely cheap to charge the car, for example. But this doesn't end there. So you can also create other tokens which work as a voucher or something like that, or for a lottery or something which you get if you behave in the way basically as it is appreciated. So that you're kind of getting the information that you're saying, okay, well, if you're doing this and that now, you will get that kind of voucher and you can win something in a lottery, or you can use that voucher for purchasing something, or whatever you want to structure, you can do that with those blockchain tokens.
Thank you. Senja?
So we would have one more question with regards to the future, let's say, charging infrastructure. Albedo from the EVA project, how can charging infrastructure evolve in the future in your view?
Thank you for asking. I think the other panelists have answered a little bit to this question too, with electric roads maybe, and of course with the use of blockchain system. These are technologies that will be integrated to probably help the system. But the system maybe, as I said before, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but in the long term is therefore necessary to think about the fact that the infrastructure are being installed now will be able to adapt to this new system with maybe shared vehicle with a mobility as a service framework that are completely autonomous. So in order to limit the rapid obsolescence, there will be maybe in this evolving future something that have to match with all these different new technologies that are coming.
Okay, all right. That sounds sounds quite promising. And then we have one last question to our participants from Smart Autonomy. I think Aris.
It's for Marco. So I think big interest in this panel is the interaction with the end user and especially the driver. So in your case, in your demonstration activities and the management system you are developing, can you give us some more details about the interaction with the users and how you cover their needs?
Okay, thank you, Aris, for this question. This is really like a key point here, the user experience and user needs, because this was identified in our previous work that's really key thing. And in this kind of open and living testbed, it will be quite an interesting challenge to have this uniform and solid user experience, because this environment will be always changing. But also one thing to keep in mind is that this user experience is actually a quite multidimensional thing. It includes, for example, finding to the location, finding within the location that what available equipment there is and how suitable it is for my vehicle, and having clear digital signage about availability and status of the equipment there. Payment systems like we see here, and that the blockchain could change something of that, but that nowadays we have very diverse payment systems available, and usability of the charging stations is one thing. Reliability is very important. Location maintenance needs to be taken care of, linked services, etc. So there are a lot of different aspects to take into account, and this is our aim in this ZEMHub initiative, to bring all these together to create a really good user experience. So it's not only a single thing that we can name here, but we try to address all of these things that we have now identified in our first step, where we did a service design approach on the ZEMHub concept and identified these things. So that is our plan now. We try to take this kind of holistic look on the user experience and find the best practices there.
All right. Thank you very much, Marco. We hope that our participants have filled in the Slido question. We will now go to our next slide of comments, where we would like to invite our EC representative, Rolf Riemann-Snyder, who has joined our session today, and also the working group representatives, Enrique Morgadis and Antonio Elichetto, to see with them our next question. And also to invite the participants again to participate in the third Slido question. Please express in one word the main gap in your country R&I agenda related to electromobility integration in the energy system. So what in your view is at the moment missing? And then I would give the floor to my colleague Aris the floor is yours for this slide question, please.
So we have a general question: what is currently missing to further advance the electromobility, and to identify some key challenges? Of course, feel free to express some comments on previous answers. So we could start with Rolf.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning or late morning. Thanks, Shenya. Thanks, Aris. I follow the discussion. It's quite interesting. Looking from our perspective, we have this cooperation on different joint projects with DG Ener on digital and in energy. And you've heard from Mark. There's a lot of things on the agenda, to drive an agenda and digital agenda for the energy. The driver for that obviously is the Green Deal. You know, we have to green the economy, we have to reduce greenhouse gas emission. And on the other hand, you might know that the innovation cycle in digital is much faster than you have it in energy. So there's a general gap which we see, which just makes it difficult for this cooperation. So we have to bring together different stakeholders from different perspectives and also with different interests, obviously. I'm quite happy that you have chosen the use case of electromobility, because that shows, you know, the complexity of the value chain in that particular aspect. At the foremost, I think I heard the different views and the presentations. I have questions back to the panelists, because, you know, if you talk about use cases, and we heard in the morning that use cases are key in your agenda and in your vision. So in the use cases for EV charging, we've seen different interests from different stakeholders. And at the first place, what we feel, it's very important to distinguish what is the use case. It is for public charging. Is it a city use case? Is it a private use case? You know, a driver, you bought your car and you want to charge your car at home. Or is it a combination of semi-public private? Is it, you know, something like a discounter or like IKEA or any other shopping center, which is offering additional charging services? And what, you know, what are the people who will be willing to invest? If you talk about the future perspectives, and I try to be brief on that, we're going to have sort of a research and innovation program under Horizon Europe Cluster 5, where we address particularly the digital topics, interoperability, also including charging for electric vehicles, but also, as Mark mentioned this morning, is the data space. Because, you know, looking from the user, if you drive your car, you want to charge your car, I think the first thing you're asking is, where do I find a charging station? Second question is, you know, how can I reserve it? Third is, how do I get there? Fourth is, you know, what is the autonomy of my car? What is my battery reserve? Thirdly, what is the weather about? What is the traffic? And so on and so forth. So basically, you need a lot of information in order to make that happen. And then, of course, you know, what does it cost? And is it possible to have a roaming agreement if I access the charging station? So that's why I think one of the key elements as well of the research and innovation program will be about how do you deal with the different data. So about the data space, bringing the different data together, and how to find an agreement, particularly on data sharing, combining data-driven services from the different stakeholders.
Okay. Do the projects want to comment about the use cases?
Well, this is Margo. I could maybe comment and continue a little bit on that. And I agree with that view that knowing the use cases is really going to be the key, and also having effective data sharing and data marketplace, and it will be also important, and that is something that we will be also working on. And one thing that has maybe received too little attention at the moment, in my opinion, is that interoperability and conformance to standards, because that is yet at this point causing some issues, like when a new vehicle enters the market or vehicle gets a software update, that is not always guaranteed that these kind of or the compatibility to the charging infrastructure is always guaranteed. So I feel like that this aspect would maybe benefit from extra attention in the R&I agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if Dominic wants to add something.
Yeah, I just want to go further a little bit more in this, this idea that we need the information about how, where are the charging station, but do we need all these charging stations in the future? So if the battery capacity now is so high and the average of car battery is the use of the car is just for 30 kilometers per day, and you can charge at your home or your work place. I don't. This is just in a new, just a provocative, if you want, question. But maybe the system is changing. We don't need all this data. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to answer that. I think you're kind of right. I think the more the battery sizes are increasing, the less you need to have a super optimized system, because you basically all the constraints will kind of progressively be going away, because you more and more margin you will have, the more and more your EV will look like a petrol car. And basically the question of availability of charging point, and again the question of the use case here is key. Whether you need it in public spaces or whether you need it at home is very different. And what is the frequency you need to access these? Because in a world where the car have 100 kilometer range, these are critical questions. In the world where your car has 500 kilometer range, it's less critical. And the approach is then completely different. So there is really a question about putting efforts to super optimize a system, which is currently a moving target. And the way it moves is really fast. And that's why I'm really convinced that we should focus on the customer's needs and expectations rather than provide the right environment, technological solutions for a world of today, because the world of tomorrow will be very different.
This is Rolf speaking again. Thanks, Dominic. I think I would fully agree, because we are in discussion with different associations and stakeholders. And on the one hand, the automotive industry, if you look at the plans to ramp up the production of electric vehicles, there's a dramatic change. Secondly, we look at the batteries technologies and the roadmap for the capacity increase. As you said, well, there's an incredible technology push on the battery side, that the capacity is increased dramatically compared to today's technology, which of course will have a very positive impact on the autonomy of the car. At the same time, we look at the production sites. I think production sites for batteries, for cars, will be ramped up in Europe, also in the next 2 to 3 years. So again, you see another technology push, which is, pushing innovation and new business models and applications on the market. So that this, and back to Mark's point of this morning, don't forget at the end of the day, we also have the target to integrate renewables into the system.
Yes.
So actually, looking from the people, who invest in renewables or solar panels on the roof, there's a very simple question as well. If I have a solar panel on the roof, or if I know there's a solar station, a solar farm next to my environment, my home, how do I benefit from this green energy? When do I have to charge my car? When do I have to switch on my washing machine? When is the best moment? And how do I do it? So again, this user perspective, I don't see it clearly, but I don't know, maybe I have different views.
Can I intervene on this as a point of view of ENTSO-E, Aris? Can I?
Yes, please.
Yes, by the way, we have recently made a study which has just been published on the impact on grids about electric vehicles, and I see that Rolf has just put in the chat an advertisement of a webinar where we will disseminate it. I think we have to add an important dimension to all what is being said, and it is the electric system will have an impact, not so much on energy, because we will see a lot of shifts, some efficiency will consume less energy, but electrification will consume more energy. We have here instead an issue of peak capacity. if I haven't heard, if I'm not wrong, in the whole panel, the word smart charging or vehicle to grid, and we as TSO, we think this is really the crucial point because, and this is the real time for acting, because electric vehicles are coming very fast probably, and the main gap we see is the lack of the infrastructure. It is a sort of a chicken and egg problem, but this will be solved with a coordinated planning, also involving the electric system. It is not just a question of connecting probably to DSO. Here I am bringing also the point of view of TSO, transmission system, because when we have millions or even more than 100 millions of electric vehicles, this is really an important resource for the grid, because we have a lot of batteries which are there already paid for by the car drivers when they purchase the car, and they are under certain conditions, which are win-win solution between the user and the system. They are precious resources, and from this point of view, slow charging is more important than fast charging. Of course, we would need fast charging for who has to charge in little time. But since many vehicles are idle most of the time, this means that they can really be voluntarily be put at the service of the grid with appropriate market signals, with appropriate information infrastructure, with appropriate system also involving data. We will need a lot of data management indeed, and this is both for hardware. So we should aim to have the first charging station already at least ready for smart charging, if not already characterized by this, and also the software part, the process. So we have to set up the whole ecosystem. We have so many different stakeholders, and the planning has to involve urban planners, the transport sector, the battery and car manufacturers, but also the grid operators. And all of this, keeping in mind that we have to offer to the user a solution which will be the best acceptable for him with different kind of incentives. And for this, we need a lot of demo and pilot, and so it's very welcome the participation of Rolf to have also European funded project on this.
May I jump into on this one, because basically it's now about incentives and how it can be structured. Our approach is actually going in that direction with smart charging, so that basically once you have vehicle to grid and as well available, that you are able to tap into a massive resource of very individualistic kind of behaviors by providing an option for people to provide that flexibility for the grids, for the market. And if you're doing that in a decentralized way, as we are approaching it, you can actually structure it very openly, so that you are actually as a car owner, as a driver, you're providing flexibility based on your decision to the market as it is in that very moment, so that if your car plugged into the network, you can actually earn money by charging your car, or you can provide flexibility and earn some money based on that what you do. But that kind of earning money means in our case always digital money, which is much more flexible to be handled than regular payments with contracts and everything what you have to do there.
Okay, and if I may still add to this kind of thinking of the required charging infrastructure in the future and battery development, I think that is also kind of a balance that what is the optimal size of a battery for a passenger vehicle. Like, should it be sized so that it can maximize always the range, and then like the daily driving you have a lot of excess capacity, or is it going to be settling somewhere in the middle, so that then on the long distance you need high power charging? And the one thing that we have already seen is the very high pace of high power charging taking up now during the last year. The ramp up has been really fast, jumping from 50 kilowatt DC charging to 150 and above. and that is also the pace is increasing. So definitely we need the slow charging, but also the higher power charging, and the balance in the future with the battery capacity will basically settle this need for this on-road charging.
Yes, but the more capacity, the more density of energy is there, the more the challenge put to the grids. Because if we have a contemporaneity of a higher power, individual power vehicles, this increases the challenges. Also because we have seen from studies, also from Enedis RT, there was one from France 2 years ago, that the natural behavior is to charge in the evening time, at least for all those who can charge at home, and this will is already the moment in time of the day where we have the most ramping up in the grid, because we have photovoltaic production going down. So this is already a challenge today. It can become a big challenge tomorrow. Instead, with mass charging, instead of being a challenge, is an option. So you either lose or either win. You can go from a problem to a resource.
Mm-hmm. Maybe is there a comment from Working Group 2 Chair Enrique Morgadis?
Yeah, I wanted to add that I fully agree with Antonio and his comments and what is being done, and trying to answer your questions besides from what is being already commented by the panelists. I see that standardization is always a key barrier that we are facing. So I don't know how your projects are facing this challenge, and what kind of recommendations or what kind of insights or outputs are you taking out from this point of view or this perspective? Because as far as I see, there are many challenges that are already being commented here, but I think standardization it's always an issue in the field of smart grids. If we go there and linking with Antonio's comment, there's made a lot of effort here, and I think we have made a lot of progress. But in the field of electric vehicles, I think that are more agents in the field, and more connections and more a plethora of entities and interests, and also the customer, the final customer, which is sometimes unpredictable. So how are you facing this part that is critical to me?
Okay, thank you. Right, are there any other comments on this? Okay, then I would invite you to have a look on the Slido results. We have asked 3 questions to our participants and technical team. Can you share the Slido results with us? Is it working? Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So we can see that that we have a lot of participants in our session from Spain, Germany, France, Switzerland, but also Czech Republic, Norway, that's great, Austria, Greece, and some also from Slovakia, Cyprus, Estonia, and Italy. Okay, then let's see the next result. So many participants from system operation here today. Then we have also planning, holistic architecture and assets, flexibility enabler and system flexibility providers, consumer and prosumer and citizen energy community seems to be also a big topic that is tackled by the participants from our session. And it seems also digitalization, if you can go down, seems to be an important research area. And system economics. Okay, right. Okay, then the next question, please. What are the main barriers in the deployment of charging stations in your country or city? And then the answer was the limited number of EVs. Then the second and third question or second and third important reply was installation costs and interoperability issues, difficult word, and yes, regulatory issues, and what else? That's it, yeah. Okay, so from our panelists, could we go back to this? Could you, yes. Is this an expected, let's say, answer that you all agree with, or is there something surprising for you? So these main barriers.
Chicken and egg problem.
This was speaking.
Yes.
I think we heard it many times that it's a chicken and egg problem.
Yes.
Okay.
I think there is a study from Deloitte. I think it was in the Austrian market about these barriers, and it's clear the expectation from the potential buyer of an electric vehicle is a very large autonomy. And if the autonomy is not there, at least to be sure that he can charge whenever possible he goes for a trip or a journey. So, if you look at the press releases, I think there were more and more partnerships between DSOs and automotive manufacturers, because I think that could be negative news on not being able to charge the car when being on the road would dramatically negatively affect the promotion of selling electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Rolf. Then, yeah, we can go to the next, I think, final. Yeah, what is the role of the DSO in the deployment of charging stations in your country? Then 54% answered there is an active involvement. 40% answered that they support third parties to deploy their network of charging stations, and 8% replied that there's no involvement. So also here, back to the panelists, any surprise for you, or is this also the expected, let's say, anticipated reply?
Well, from my side, I can just say that basically in most of the charging stations we have here in Austria are kind of provided by DSOs or close to DSOs. It's unbundled, but basically you see a lot of those here, and because most of them would never be economically feasible, nobody else would do them. So basically they're just kind of putting charging stations up. But if you would give that to the free market, you would have no charging station.
No, but that's a point indeed, because I've seen more than the half of DSOs are involved, but I guess this is through separate companies, because by Emission, I think in all Europe, the DSO cannot sell energy because of unbundling. So do we mean here as a separate company of the same group? Because this is also something we should aim at, to have a market for aggregators, and especially if they will have to go, as we hope, to smart charging. There is a lot more than just giving energy at a certain time and being paid for that. They should enter the big electricity system ecosystem, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Then we go to the last Slido question. Express in one word the main gap in your country R&I agenda related to the electromobility integration in the energy systems. So we have here regulation as one of the biggest keywords, and apart from that, we can also see heavy duty, capacity of electricity, coordination, funding opportunities, and the number of EVs, of course, overall system resilience, incentives to DSO policies, Yeah, that's, I think, pretty straightforward. So regulation seems to be one of the key factors, but also, yeah, some topics that we can see in the word cloud. Yeah, back once more back to our panelists. What do you think is the, like, very, very briefly, also with one word, what do you think is, in your view, the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge for me is that there are many stakeholders with different views, not used to have a cooperation, because normally the architects in urban planning, they have their planning, the electricity provider, they have them, the grid is plan manufacturers of cars, of batteries, and they have to come all together. This is, I think, the biggest difficulty. Regulation will come, because regulation, I think now is only tariff. If you sell energy, this is already regulated. You need some adjustment because, for example, for prosumers, you need to recognize some advantage, but I wouldn't say is the main gap.
I would jump in on this one because I think regulation is just far too much in the energy space. So basically, you don't have a market. There is no way of becoming active if you're not part of the already defined market players. So therefore, the integration in the energy system for outsiders is either not possible because of regulation in the energy market, or because of regulation which doesn't make it easy to install, for example, charging infrastructure in buildings and that kind of thing, because you're having other regulations which are kind of hindering your possible activity within there. So when I see regulation, I mean too much regulation because there is no market.
I agree with it. You regulate a market. If there is not still a market, you have little to regulate. Now, and then it will come.
Yeah, currently, basically, you can't have a market or kind of a pre-market because the regulation is already there. So new entrants are kind of unable to work in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the established ones, they are not the fastest in the energy space, just to be polite.
Okay, thank you very much. We are very much in time, so thanks to all the panelists for your contribution to this discussion. We are arriving now at the end of session 1, and I think it was really a fruitful discussion with many different points of views. We would like to invite you to join us back after a small coffee break. We suggest to come back at 12:10. So you would have now the chance to grab a coffee or a tea, and then we would like to invite you back to the joint session, which you can either access via the chat. I think our technical team will now paste the link to the joint session, or by the access card that you should have received. So it's the last link that you then just need to click on. So yes, thank you very much for your contributions. Thanks again to Rolf Riemenschneider from the European Commission to join our session. Thanks to all the projects that were here today. Thanks to the working group representatives, to Antonio Elisceto and Enrique Morgades for your comments. And thank you, participants, to make our session so interactive and interesting via the Slido. So we got a pretty good idea of what do you think, where are the barriers, and what should we look at next. So see you in a bit, and enjoy your coffee break.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
diventerebbe un Guarda Laura, forse io aggiungerei quello che stava dicendo Francesco prima, cioè anche un work del wireframe post integrazione API, no? Non so poi Francesco, no, forse